Welcome to the More Time, More Money and More Wealth mini podcast for medical professionals, brought to you by MediSuccess and the WOW Advisors Group. This podcast is dedicated to medical professionals who would like to work smarter, not harder, earn significantly more income and create astonishing wealth. Now, let me introduce you to our host today, Hitesh Mohanlal.
Welcome to our first mini podcast, except this one's not exactly going to be a mini one as an episode, because the idea of the podcast series is to really talk about how to work less, earn more, and create an awesome amount of wealth. But this first episode is about putting everything together. Whereas future episodes will be a little bit shorter and on very specific discussions. But this first episode is purely bringing everything together, and therefore it's going to be a bit long. It's going to be like 35 or 40 minutes or something like that long, whereas the normal episodes that I will probably do will only be about 10 or 15 minutes. But I'll start, okay? So if you kind of know what I do or have read my blogs, you know I continuously talk about something called the 9 steps to work less, earn more, and create awesome wealth, right? And I'm often asked by medical professionals what the 9 steps are, or if I can do it as a summary or something like that. And usually when I get asked that question, I said, look, just go and read my book. The book is called The Passport to Real Wealth and Financial Freedom for Medical Professionals, because that gives you an absolute concise information about the entire topic. But I do realize not everybody, especially medical professionals who are short on time, have a spare 5 hours to read or listen. And so I kind of give this sort of summary, okay? I will be upfront if I can. Our 9 steps we are very proud of. It's taken me a long time to work it out, and we have been using it consistently for a number of years now. It is now a tried and tested formula. It works. All you need to do is focus on it and spend some time on it. So what are these 9 steps? Well, look, there's a magic formula. Okay. As a medical professional, if you want to reach financial freedom, you need to have 3 things. 1, a solid financial foundation so you keep as much as possible. 2, be able to generate as much net income and as cash as possible. Now, generally, medical professionals do not have any problem creating net income and cash. But you have to invest some of that cash and some of that income to create wealth and financial freedom. And what we find is that medical professionals are not great at that point. You do have wealth, you just do not have as much as you should have because you're not doing it as much as you should. And all you've got to do is keep repeating that until you've got the wealth and financial freedom you want. And as a medical professional, it should simply be as simple as that, because, as I said before, you can generate serious income. So it's just a matter of getting number 1 right and getting 3 right, whereas everybody else has to do 1, 2, and 3. It does sound easy, but it is not as simple as that. And that is because even though you are easily in the highest income bracket, you very rarely feature as a medical professional in the highest wealth bracket. Besides, if it was easy, all medical professionals would be billionaires and we would have no healthcare professionals. And because they are not all billionaires, it tells me that maybe medical professionals are aiming too high. But I can tell you that all the people, all those medical professionals who go through our 9-step system and have a plan and own their own businesses or are consultants or are contractors do become multi-millionaires, and that in itself says something. But you must follow the steps, and you've got to do it consistently. One of the things we find is people get very enthusiastic about it, and then all of a sudden they kind of lose interest. You've got to do this consistently, and you've got to do it regularly. All right. If you don't do that, you will be wasting your time. So, where do we start? Well, like all things, we have to start and build a foundation. A financial foundation is a bit like building a house. If you want to build one out of straw, the foundation doesn't need to be that strong. Rough ground will even do. But then you run the risk of blowing away, your house blowing away when a small storm comes around. Build one of wood, and the foundation needs to be stronger than that of a straw house. But again, a storm's going to blow it over. If you want a low-set brick home, then you're going to need a solid concrete foundation. Storms won't blow them over. But if you want a double-story home, you're going to need a stronger foundation than a low-set brick home. Because if you don't, the house will fall over. And this is no different when it comes to building a financial foundation. If you want cash to be piled on top of cash, then the financial financial foundation must be strong, or it's going to start leaking. And then your money falls over and you lose it. So a strong financial foundation is where we start, and you need a solid base from which to start and build. And I'm going to say something right now, which might be a little bit surprising for you, but just remember one thing. It is not what you earn that matters. It's what you actually keep and get to use and get to invest that matters. You create a foundation by following the 3 initial steps of the 9-step system. Okay? 1, you have to have a structure that pays the least amount of taxes and analyzes your tax affairs regularly to ensure the least amount of taxes are paid. And it's not just taxes now, it's taxes over the lifetime of the either the business or the investment structure you are creating. Make sure your assets are protected even when things do not appear to be going great. And this is one of the biggest things we find with medical professionals is accountants will tell things to do in their personal names when you are maybe at high risk as a medical professional, and because it's good for tax, but then you find it gets untangled later on. Number 3, look at your operations and see where improvements can be made. So these first 3 steps will help you reduce the time in your business. So let's take each of those 3 in a bit more detail. All right. Step 1, structure. Your medical business and your investment structure is going to determine the tax rate and whether your assets are protected. And because life is never simple, there is a fine line between asset protection and taxes. It's not unusual for medical clients to come to us with a wrong tax structure or a structure that reduces taxes but is so complex it does not meet the client's objective. Trying to change it after it's all been set up is like trying to undertake brain surgery while you're being tickled at the same time. It's not really going to happen. And that's because the costs of changing are usually quite prohibitive. So your structure is super important. Most structures are set up with taxes in mind, and that's because medical professionals believe that it is the be-all and end-all. But I have found that you can save taxes but totally expose yourself to asset protection or limit the ability to transfer any of those assets to, say, your children without massive tax consequences. For example, tax agents will tell all medical professionals that investment property should be purchased in their personal names if negatively geared. From a tax point of view, yes, that does make sense. But if you earn a lot and you want to sell it, the chances are you're going to pay more taxes via capital gains tax. What if you want to give it to your children while you're still alive? Well, you can, but expect to pay more taxes. And you'll end up paying stamp duty too. What if you get sued? Well, if your insurance company turns around and says, well, we're not paying out because you've been negligent, and by the way, that has happened, the chances are you could lose that asset totally. Now, I know what you're going to tell me, right? You've got medical insurance and it will cover you. But don't be so sure, because insurance companies are in the business of collecting premiums, not in the business of paying out claims. All they have to say is, yeah, you were negligent. And it's down to you as the medical professional to prove, often via the courts, that you have not been negligent. And think about this. The second most litigious country by population ratio when it comes to doctors or medical professionals outside the US is Australia. Do not assume you will not get sued. Your chances are higher than normal, and you are in an industry considered high risk by the insurance companies. There is a reason why your insurance premiums are so high, and there is a reason why it goes up a lot every year. But this is the way I would want you to think about it. What would you prefer? Would you like to save $4,000 every year in taxes or completely lose your investment property? I'd rather pay the $4,000 knowing my investment is safe. And I guess you would too. But accountants and tax agents know that telling medical professionals they can give you an extra $4,000 a year will give them a shot equivalent to crack cocaine and make them look like God. So they'll tell you to take the saving and ignore the risk. After all, who doesn't want to be seen as God? The same is valid for business structures, okay? So should you set up as a company, or should you be a trust? And remember, a medical business structure is of paramount importance. So do not look at structures from a tax point of view. That is short-term thinking that may cause you long-term pain. Work out what you would like now, what you would like to happen in the future. Your structure should be based on getting that. Then work out how you're going to pay the least in taxes while getting the objective you want. Step 2, tax review. As I've said before, my medical clients are all obsessed with taxes, okay? Most of our clients want the highest in terms of earnings, but want to pay a pittance in taxes. And to be quite honest, I'm no different, okay? But in reality, that's not really going to work. If you earn it, you need to pay it, unless you are prepared to break the law. I will repeat what I have said before. It is not what you earn that matters. What you keep after taxes and what you do with it does matter. But to pay more taxes than you should, yeah, that's the part that's stupid. This is why you need to review taxes yearly to ensure you're paying the least. But remember one thing, the rich do not get richer by paying less tax. They pay more than their fair share of tax. In fact, the top 10% of the richest people in Australia pay 55% of all personal income tax. And I think that is the difference about how the wealthy think and how you as a medical professional think. The wealthy rarely concentrate on, I want to pay less taxes. Their concentration is, I want to achieve X $100,000 in wealth or income, but I want to pay the least amount of tax to get there. What you concentrate on, you get. If you focus on low taxes, you are going to get that. But as I said, if you want low taxes, you have to show low income. And that can cause you all kinds of problems. Step 3. Most of our medical professional clients operate a business. Okay. The efficiency of your medical business determines how much money you're going to make. So running a lean, mean fighting machine is really a necessary. The issue? There are none out there. But there are many that are better than others. And that's what you want to achieve. When we start the advisory process with a medical professional, we often find that the client is working quite long hours in order to earn their keep. They often have a good medical business, but not all parts are working as they would like. Get that right, because what you will find is that by doing so, there's more money and less stress. If you can do that, what you're going to find is the business hasn't increased its skill set. It hasn't necessarily expanded its patient numbers or fee income. All it's done is become better at what it already does. Every business needs an external person looking in, and that includes my own. As business owners and as medical professionals who own a business, we're so engrossed and emotionally involved to ask the difficult questions that need to be answered. Just because we think we know something does not mean we are prepared to follow it through. And from experience, I can tell you, most of us, including me, don't follow it through. That's why I'm prepared to share with my mentors and my coaches things that happen in my business, even though I am a business advisor. Coaches and mentors tell us and force us to think about things we're not prepared to consider. Most of the business progress my business has made, which is the WOW Advisors Group and MediSuccess, has actually been due to outside insights that have been considered. These first 3 steps are going to reduce the amount of time you spend working in your medical business. The next 3 steps are about maximizing net income and cash, allowing you to increase your income. The logic is that if you want to generate maximum cash, you must generate the maximum amount of net income, which, to be quite honest, medical professionals are very good at doing. Most medical professionals concentrate on billings. Yes, it's important, but net income and billings are quite different. In reality, if you really look at it, I don't necessarily spend an awful lot of time on billings. I do spend quite a lot of time on net income. Okay. And the example I'm about to give you is not a medical professional. It's one of our clients within the WOW Advisors Group. Okay. I was acting for a client who had a sales of about 2.9 million. Okay. Today, sales are only 1.8 million. And you can conclude that the business has suffered, it's gone down, it's not doing so well. But let me tell you this, 5 years ago, the business was making about $300,000 in losses. Today, that same business with that reduced turnover is now making $200,000 in profits. Yes, sales are important, but profit is more important. And the question I'm going to ask you is, are you concentrating on billings or are you concentrating on profit? Okay, so how do you maximize income and cash? Well, they are steps 4, 5, and 6. And what it is step 4 is you've got to understand your figures. And I know as a medical professional, that is probably your worst nightmare, but bear with me. Okay. Step 5 is how do we use those figures to generate more cash? And step 6 is how do we ensure that the business operations are running efficiently? Because if we can do that, it will generally mean more cash. Again, let's take each in detail. Step 4, I call it the scoreboard. What does your scoreboard tell you? Okay, think of a sport that does not have a scoreboard. And I can pretty much tell you, you're going to find it very hard to find any game that does not have some kind of scoreboard. All right? Because without seeing a scoreboard, you can't see if you've won the game. And you cannot work out what your strategy should be to win that game. A medical business is also a game, and it has a scoreboard. You need to read that medical business scoreboard to make effective strategic decisions that allow you to win the game of business. So what's the business scorecard? Well, it's a profit and loss, balance sheet, and cash flow statement. And I know what you're going to tell me. I don't understand any of that. And I'm going to tell you, you do not need to. Okay? One thing is always true. No matter what you think or say to me, figures always tell a story and they never ever lie. Okay? And like I said before, I know what you're thinking. You're not an accountant. You don't fancy spending 5 years learning about P&Ls and balance sheets and cash flow and all of that. And to be quite honest, I do not blame you. But you can cheat. You're better off talking to an accountant or a business advisor telling you how well your business is doing, because they will be looking at your scorecard. So get it outsourced. Get somebody else to do it. Let somebody else crunch those numbers, analyze what they mean. All you need to do is identify what the numbers are actually telling you. And think of this like a blood test, right? What would you say if a patient decided they were going to read their own blood test, right? You're going to say it's not really going to work, right? Because half of the things in a blood test don't make logical sense. You understand it, but me as a patient will not. One of the traits of any successful business person is that they're measuring freaks, okay? If you don't measure, you can't manage. If you can't manage, you can't improve. So, if you want to improve the scorecard, start measuring the items that make the biggest improvement. What should you measure? Well, these are known as KPIs and known as key performance indicators. Every business is different, so every business has different KPIs. But for a medical practice, your KPIs are going to be based around fee income, doctor's fees, rent, administrative costs, and profit. And what you do is you hammer each of those KPIs and they will make you more money. All right. Step 5, create cash flow. There are only 5 ways you can increase profits and cash flow. 1, you sell more. 2, you reduce expenses in your medical business. 3, you reduce the amount of patients owe you. 4, you reduce the amount of medical supplies and things that you hold and suppliers you pay. And finally, 5, you delay what you pay to people. Okay? Some of these things will be more relevant to you than others. Make sure you focus on what makes a difference, because cutting small costs is a good idea, but it's only done good if it's in sufficient volume. Cutting small costs is like trying to solve a 50 grand overdraft by not buying premium paper. It's not really going to have an effect. So whatever changes you make sure they make a difference. If you do not have enough money in your medical business transaction account, you're either spending beyond your means or you have a problem generating cash from patients. But now I'm going to go outside the business and go personal, because it's now time to work out how you use the cash flow in your personal capacity. See, excess cash in your medical business will go to you, either as wages, drawings, distributions, or dividends. If you use a bucket company, it will reduce taxes, but that now means the company has got the cash and it's locked up in the company. Okay? So otherwise, excess profit and cash is going to hit your personal bank account. And wealth is generally created in a personal capacity. There's a belief that medical businesses create wealth. Most don't. Medical businesses generate income. Individuals use that income to build wealth, and families as a family unit will use individual wealth to create generational wealth. Once it gets into personal accounts, though, generally it gets spent. And this explains why most medical professionals do not invest as much as they should, which results in overall less wealth. It has been proven that if you generate more income, you will find more exotic ways to spend it. The logic is you've convinced yourself you deserve all those extra treats. I have mentioned before how income does not equal wealth. Remember, it's not what you earn that matters. It's what you keep and invest which does. Let me explain this. All right, I've got a medical professional client who earns about $560,000. Nothing extravagant. I have another client, a tradie, who earns about 100 to 150,000. Okay, so if you just look at that, you'll say the medical professional is exponentially richer and therefore is more wealthier. But are they? See, the medical professional has a plan. His plan is to invest if there's anything left over after personal expenses. But what they find is that there's never any cash left over. But to an outside person who knows nothing about them, they look very wealthy because they have a very nice home, they have very fancy cars, and they go away on fancy holidays. But if I was to estimate their wealth, it would be around about $1 million mark. The tradie has modest expenses, and from the outside, he does not look wealthy. Okay? But his wealth is estimated at about 1.6 million. The medical professional earns about 5 times more, but the tradie has 33% more wealth. And as time passes, the gap between the two will get bigger because the tradie benefits from something called compounding interest. I'm often blunt, and many professionals or many medical professionals will not like what I say right now. This is not unusual. Most high earners think high income equals wealth. But, just like I've said and proved, this is not true. If you need to more about this, then just think about Mike Tyson, the boxer, Nicolas Cage and Johnny Depp, the actors, and think about what they have in common. They all had career earnings in excess of US $400 million each. And all of them ran out of money. Mike Tyson and Nicolas Cage actually went bankrupt. How is that even possible? This is because as income grows, there is a tendency to incur exotic expenses. At one stage, Johnny Depp owed 4 islands and Nicolas Cage owned 15 homes. And you will say all of these were assets. They should have created wealth. The reality is none created wealth and they were liabilities. So what's the tradie doing that the medical professional is not doing? Well, he's got a plan, and that plan comes before spending any money. We sat down together and devised a plan so that money is put aside first for investments, and then whatever's left he can do as he wishes. Income gives you potential wealth. It's what you do with that income that matters. And I think this is the one crucial thing medical professionals fail to understand. Okay, step 6. There are only 2 ways you can increase cash flow. One is you reduce personal expenses and increase the amount you put away. This will work, but I have found there's a limit to how much humans are prepared to sacrifice a good life today for a good life tomorrow or in retirement. The second one is you increase fees and profit and put a percentage of that growth into your future. I generally discuss opportunities separately because they can be really powerful. They're really these outside the box type thinking. Every business, including my own, has internal efficiencies. Your objective is to find them, fix them, and aim at increasing and maximize cash flow. This is a job of your practice manager, and you got to get your team involved in this every single week, including your contractor doctors who will not like to get together every week. Okay? And one of the items that you are going to be talking about is anything that actually went wrong the week before. How do we get that right? How do we ensure it doesn't happen again? So spend time working out how to generate more income. Generally, there are few significant business-changing opportunities out there. However, the small changes you do make will compound and after a period of time are going to make a big difference. The identification of opportunities is actually not going to come from you. Most will come from external advisors. A lot will come from your team if they are engaged. So engage them. They could be the difference between you generating some or you generating a lot of income. Okay. The next steps, which are steps 7, 8, and 9, are about financial freedom. This is the holy grail of financial success. Steps 7, 8, and 9 are all about the need to invest, create passive income, and to create an estate plan. This is where actually it gets exciting. You are about to begin the journey of making money even when you sleep. And for a medical professional, that is something quite unique, because up to now, in order to generate income, you had to sit in front of a patient. But I also need to tell you something at this point. I'm not a financial advisor and I'm not a financial planner. And that means I can't give you specific investment advice, but I can discuss this in general terms, right? And the reason is because if I do give you specific advice, every state, federal, and regulator in the country is going to ensure I have real problems, okay? Because they're going to jump all up and down on me, all right? But I'm going to give you information that's generally available to you, all right? And I'll give it to you in such a way that it makes sense so that you can have a conversation with your financial planner or advisor and at least understand what they are talking about. So, step 7, investments. When it comes to investments, clients will have their own passions and likes. If they love real estate, they're going to expose themselves to it and they won't do anything else. But history has shown that those who spread their money around, those who diversify their investments in different investment assets, manage the ups and downs better than those who do not. A few years ago, I realized I was probably overexposed to real estate, so I no longer invest in it, even if the fantastic opportunity comes around. Okay? There are various asset classes. You can have cash, you can have bonds, you can have stocks and shares, you can invest in real estate, you can buy commodities, you can get into alternative investments such as venture capital, growth equity, buyouts, buying out another business, and things like cryptocurrencies. And if you want more information on the above, I am really now going to refer you to my book, The Passport to Wealth and Real Financial Freedom for Medical Professionals, because this is something you do need to spend a bit of time on in order to do the subject justice. It is possible that I will cover these asset classes in a future podcast, but you'll have to wait till that comes out. Which of these classes should you invest in? I really can't tell you that. But I can tell you what is out there and what may take your interest. But I will tell you something. When deciding whether any of the investments are relevant to your portfolio, you need to consider the risk and reward. This is only going to be done when you discuss personal circumstances with a qualified financial planner or advisor. They will work out the best mix of asset classes based on your risk profile, how to diversify that risk, and work to your personal circumstances. When it comes to investments, though, keep an eye on the costs you pay someone to look after your portfolio. You see, you give money to a financial planner to play with. If you win, your wealth increases. You both get to buy a new suit or fancy set of high heels. If, on the other hand, you lose, i.e. your wealth goes down, then you don't get to buy even a t-shirt, but they still get to buy a new suit or a new pair of heels. Or worse, they're going to get both. So be careful. However, if you are not confident about investing, you will need a good financial planner. So choose wisely. Step 8, passive income. Now, I want to be clear about something. There is nothing passive about passive income. To generate passive income, you must be active, especially in the beginning. Sometimes you may start out with negative passive income. In other words, it costs you cash, but the asset generates positive passive income over time. The power of passive income is that income is generated when you sleep. Passive income is any income generated by an investment in an underlying asset and does not require significant physical labor time from you. Passive income is generated by the underlying investment when you are at work, on the beach, asleep in bed, or even on a walk. Passive income can be generated in several ways. If you do a web search, you'll be given all types of ways you can create passive income. And to be quite honest, most are not practical or easy. Examples are create an app. Well, you probably don't have the skills to do that. Try renting your car out. Well, do you really want somebody in your car messing around with it? Sell an ebook. Well, yeah, maybe, but it's not something that's easy to do. Okay? None are practical, none are easy. But the 4 main ways of generating passive income is as follows. Dividends from shares, interest from bonds or cash, positively geared property, and business ownership. Passive income does not arise if you sell the underlying assets. So for example, if you hold shares and then you sell that entire block of shares, that's not passive income, even if you make a huge profit on it. It would be the same if you sold an investment property when you're about to retire to finance your retirement. That's called cashing out of an investment. It is not generating passive income. Passive income is income you expect to receive because you've held or hold an underlying asset and you are going to continue to receive it as long as you continue to hold the asset. It is the basis of maintaining wealth you have created and allows that wealth to be passed down to others you love. The objective of passive income is threefold. It gives you the flexibility to work less. You can decide as a medical professional you're going to take a longer holiday knowing that even though you are not working, you've got additional income coming through to pay your bills. 2, if you cannot work, it could now become a lifesaver. As a medical professional, I know you will have an income protection policy, but most of these policies will only pay you 75% of your normal income. The question I have for you, will that be enough considering what your expenses are today? 3, as a business owner or a medical professional business owner and you come to retirement age, it's likely you will want to reduce your working hours. But what I am finding is that most can't do that because they're used to a certain lifestyle. If you reduce the hours, the income is reduced. The idea of passive income is that it allows you to transition from earning income through working and having a patient in front of you to having the same income even though you're working less. The sooner you start on this strategy and plan for passive income, the sooner you can actually reduce the hours you work. 9. Step 9, estate planning. This section is in 2 parts. If you are in business and own a business, then at some stage you're going to need to exit that business. Once you have retired, you want to ensure that your wealth is not lost to taxes and is transferred to people you love and those you want to give it to. Let's take exit first. A profitable business has value. For example, I have clients who started their business with 0 income and then sell it for $1 million later on. As a seller, you want the highest price possible for your business, and that means creating an efficient business that makes more money every year than selling it to the highest price possible. And you can't do that if you've just made a phone call to your accountant saying you've decided to sell the business. Getting a business ready for sale actually takes a number of years. A business is always changing, it's innovating, and it needs always to be efficient. It doesn't happen overnight, and you're never going to get to the point where you say it's efficient. You must constantly improve. There are many parts to getting your business ready for sale, and if you ignore them, you will lose money. But if you also happen to be a contracted doctor or such as a GP or operating as a specialist under your own ABN, the chances are you're running a business, but the business is actually you. It can't really be sold, and you can't really build it as a business because everything is connected to you. The only time I've seen a business sold over and above its worth is when a buyer sees something they're interested in. They offer money not for the business, but because they're after something more important, like intellectual property or staff or systems. And to be quite honest, that really happens in the medical space unless one of the corporates come in. So your options really are: one, hope a buyer comes in and buys you out at a premium, which to be quite honest doesn't happen very often. Two, you work harder, you work longer with more stress, less profits, and not make your business as efficient as possible because it's just too hard, and then get less money when you decide to sell. Three, you work with somebody, consistently improve your business, work less hours, reduce your stress, and then receive the premium when you decide to sell. The first option is based on hope, and to be quite honest, hope is not a strategy. Option two feels like less work, but in reality it's more work and longer hours, resulting in less profit and less money when you sell. This will affect the amount of money you have at retirement and the amount you can compound over the years. Option three is the only one that makes sense. Okay? All right. Now, don't ignore estate planning. Okay? One thing I'm going to guarantee you, no matter what you do, how much you have, you will never ever be able to take your wealth with you when you die. There's another thing. Your kids or those you love can't wait to get their hands on your money. My youngest son's already got his eyes on my Aston Martin, asking me if he can start driving it when he gets his learner's permit. And he's only 16. Yes, you've got to enjoy your life, and that means treating yourself. Otherwise, what's the point? But there is going to be a time where if you've done it right, you're not going to be able to spend it all. And as the Almighty has decreed, nothing as evil as money can go near the happy place. You will have to leave your cash, assets, and wealth behind. So you can either give your wealth away to charity, set up a foundation, or pass it on to the next generation or to those you love. This, in a nutshell, is estate planning. But as you might expect, there's a bit more. Proper estate planning means your wealth goes to those you want, whilst at the same time paying the least in taxes. So, when should you consider estate planning? If you have no documents, live with a loved one, or have children, then the answer is you need one today. The only time you do not need an estate plan is if you are single, have very few assets, little life insurance, and you could not give two hoots who inherits your smelly shoes or your alcohol collection. And there are not many medical professionals that I know that fit that category. If you do not have documentation in place, you are leaving significant decisions such as who will look after your kids, who gets the Ferrari, or your handbag collection. Because if you do not put this down, the probate courts are going to decide for you. If you don't mind a professional stranger at probate court who you've never met making these kinds of decisions for you, then estate plan is not for you. Let your surviving ones deal with the stress and the heartbreak. Let them argue over personal belongings you once thought were important to you. In other words, most people do need an estate plan. And to be quite honest, an estate plan is not that hard. All you need is a few documents. Most people can create a plan in one afternoon. Do this because your loved ones and you, especially your accountant, will thank you did. The 4 main questions you need to ask are: 1. How do you plan for incapacity? 2. Who gets your assets on your passing? 3. Who are going to look after your minor children? 4. How do we deal with taxes? So let's take each of the questions in turn. Incapacity planning. Let me ask a question. If you were to become incapacitated today, what are the chances you would be happy for someone you do not care about making decisions about your medical life and all your family matters? What are the chances this person will make sound decisions based on your beliefs and your values? Incapacity is a legal term meaning you are incapable of managing your affairs. Incapacity can be instantaneous. You've fallen into a coma due to a car accident, or gradual, something like dementia. But once you are incapacitated, you can no longer make legal, medical, or financial decisions about your life. This can only be made by someone you have authorized to make decisions for you, such as a spouse or siblings. These are known as powers of attorney. There are 2 types of incapacity planning: medical and financial. A medical POA allows somebody you know and gives them authority to make medical decisions on your behalf. They will know you well and know your values and beliefs, and you trust them to make those decisions on your behalf. A financial POA allows someone you have authorized to make financial decisions on your behalf. Again, this would be someone you trust. They are incredibly important. The distribution of assets. If you do not formally express your wishes regarding who gets what, the state is going to make those decisions for you. Without a clear distribution of assets, families will have disagreements even if they all get along and get on together. This is likely to happen amongst your children, or if you happen to have a few ex-spouses and children from previous relationships. It is common for these disagreements to happen when people die. You may believe your kids get along well, and maybe they do, but after you are gone, they may end up on the opposite sides of the spectrum. When it comes to an estate, everyone will want to be shown the money. A will is a centerpiece of any estate plan. There are 4 things that need to be considered. 1, distribution of assets. 2, who's going to be your executors. 3, who will be guardians for your minor children. And 4, when will your children inherit your cash or assets? Distribution of assets is what it says. Who will get what? Executors are people who will act on your behalf when you die. You need to choose who will look after your children if they are minors. And finally, when you want your children to inherit your wealth. If your kids get it at the age of 18, will they be responsible with it? So I'm ending this rather long episode of this podcast about how you can work less, earn more, and create astonishing wealth. If you want more about any of these steps or just want to have a chat, please get in touch with me, Hitesh Mahanlal. On the email, you can reply back. And until the next episode, we wish you a pleasant day.